Okay, welcome to a special video of Neurodivergent Pixels for sort of wrapping up um, our uh, Cyberpunk 2077 streams. Uh, just going into some additional details that have sprung to mind and kind of trying to summarize the ending overall. Um, now, okay, let's not. Actually, I'm not even touching on what I sort of consider to be the canon ending. I think there's really two major canon endings to to uh to the second playthrough, the Whims-V one half playthrough, as I'm now calling it. Um, there's the tower, and then there's the the hybrid, I guess. So if for a reason you're starting from here, uh, this is kind of a um, I'll just summarize my version of the hybrid ending first. Um, so the hybrid ending is basically Arasaka flowing into the Nomad ending, flowing into the Sun ending, basically, or at least the final bit of the Sun ending. So basically, because we saved Songbird in that version, uh, Mr. Bright Eyes contacts us. We go to do his quest at the Crystal Palace. Um, Simple as that. Um, there's some nitty gritty details. Um, yeah, we leave with Panheim and Judy. Um, and that's it. So the tower ending is a little more interesting. Is that there's a lot more I do with it. There's a lot more revising the events, the sequence of events. And fortunately, the game actually gave me ample opportunity to do so. Um, like there's space to basically apply foresight, and I think the foresight I applied is fairly reasonable, given that like we have our technical skill maxed out, our intelligence is up to I think around 15 or 16, so and we're even though in the tower ending we do technically betray Songbird, um like we had our reasons, I guess, and our rationale. It wasn't entirely malicious or selfish. It was um let's kind of start with that because basically I think our um so I guess to really start where we need to start, again, I'm just gonna go into full summary of everything involved. Um and spoilers abound for anyone who hasn't watched my entire playthrough, who doesn't have like the hours to watch my entire playthrough, maybe just wants to hear a take on the ending, on a tower ending. This can apply even to, um, I might try and, I don't think it's that far off technically from what you could get in a normal playthrough without mods, without changing anyone's sexual orientation. Um, you could basically, if you're romancing Judy and have gone through all of Panam's quests, this still works. It makes sense. It's just the only difference is that Panam is not romantically interested in this at all, but she's still like a good friend. I guess she also has to be female V for this to work too. But who isn't? She's female V is awesome. Although I had to admit, over the course of playing the game with male V's voice, he's grown on me significantly, and I'm not sure if I'd actually play as him again, um, just because of my own personal preferences as a non-binary person. But yeah. Anyway, um, my particular version of V is non-binary, assigned female at birth, and corporal background. So they, I'm going to try to stay consistent with they, because that's like I'm a him they, but there are a they there. Um, they consider themselves to be they well, I consider myself to be relatively neutral, but like I still my preferred pronouns are still male to neutral, just because I out of consideration for anyone who isn't comfortable with using neutral pronouns, and also because I discovered my identity and looked into it at like probably around my mid 30s. So like I have like all of the baggage from that, I guess. And everyone I know, particularly my parents, are just it's largely out of consideration for them. Because because male pronouns are not inaccurate, just as female pronouns would be technically not inaccurate. But I lean toward male because I've been referred to as male for literally all my life. So like, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Um, so like the difference between me and this incarnation of V, um, is one, they were assigned female at birth, and two, they discovered their identity and were in an environment where their identity was kind of established, and like well known and understood in the culture, whereas I didn't fully grasp or have the resources to understand my gender identity until I was in my early to mid 30s. But anyway, um, so basically they decided to transition to male partially, partially transition, I guess, because they still like basically just mastectomy level, um, and actually I'd probably say mastectomy. Like the character model does not reflect that, but aside from the genitalia, um, but they're a lot more androgynous overall. Um, but also very much like male presenting with their faceplate anyway. Um, because they have the goatee. Um, at least to start out with. But so yeah, I guess that's kind of like where they are, and also later on, they I established they are able to afford cyberware that allows them to shapeshift. Um, they actually technically have all along had the ability to shapeshift below the belt. Not to go into too much detail, but like to have their entire body shapeshift. So I use a save editor to transform um, the from male V to female V, and just sort of remain that way for the rest of the game because it there might be a way to like use a mod, excuse me, a mod or something to like shapeshift live, but it's easier to just make it kind of representational where like okay, half of the playthrough we're doing the male body, half of the playthrough we're doing the female body, and we're just kind of acknowledging that they're shifting between the two. um and they technically can change their voice, and that's just not possible because uh well, it is possible technically, but the save editor warns me that it can cause issues with glitches and bugs and such, and I just okay, we're just it's not that important, and I kind of want to see the full breadth of the male V voiceover anyway. So we're just gonna say that in particular instances they're using their female voice, particularly when interacting with Judy. That's one thing I there wasn't really a mod, but like you can actually like it's basically just a flag you can use cyber engine tweaks to um, triple on whether or not any particular character is romanceable. So we just made Judy romanceable, and it makes sense in lore because we are non-binary, and we are. I kind of established that like we told Judy as much and explained that we were leaning toward the idea of finding a way to shapeshift. You know, to some extent, regardless of whether or not she actually accepted us. Um, I mean, she would probably accept us regardless. Just like whether or not she um, what would be the term? Like just responded to our love, I guess. Um, but yeah, in the end, I think the way the playthrough actually went, um, because it was before I discovered that oh I could just save edit it, and switch. So I think when we actually got to the love scene, we're still technically in what I would describe anyway is the androgynous body. Um, and I think I might still make that canon. Um, like one interesting moment I actually wanted to retain. Uh, Although this would have been pre Pyramid Song probably, is that once that they got like the Cyberware to change their voice kind of back, because basically the problem was that um they had their ability to change their voice back and forth disabled when they were fired from Arasaka, and they just never quite got around to figuring out how to re-enable it because wasn't necessarily on their list of priorities at that time. But like when they got the ability to switch back and they used it with Judy, I thought it'd be interesting because there's just a moment where at least when they have that androgynous body with the facial hair, like she'd be like, okay, this is too weird. Like the female voice that you have sounds nice, but until you're able to change the body in the faceplate, maybe you just stay as you are. Um, oh great, now I'm out of water. Um, I'm recording this live, and I don't feel like editing it, so I'm just gonna hopefully not have my throat dry out. Because I think there actually is a pause feature here. We're gonna pause. Okay, and we're back before you even knew it. No need to edit. OBS is great. Um. So anyway, um, I also think it's somewhat important that Judy be able to accept. I mean, I'll say this: we probably at that point got. Well, I think we always had our female faceplate back. Like when I had talked about pretty early on that like um we one of the first things that we did with Jackie was break into our old apartment and just take everything that was sentimental. Um, and one was the faceplate based on the original female face. Um, so but definitely wore that during Pyramid Song in war. Um, and I think when they were making love, excuse me, they switched to a female voice just because in that context, I think Judy would have been okay with it. Um, may not even. I mean, she probably would have noticed, and yeah. But anyway, Um, so yeah. Also, this I should mention that this version of V is also uh, polyamorous and is in a relationship in a consensual thruple, well, quadruple, sort of, mostly a thruple with Panam and Judy. Uh, Carrie Uridine is kind of the side chick. um, well, he ends up becoming a what I would personally consider to be a friend with benefits, like a best friend with benefits, but still like there's nothing particular. Like there's love, but it's not quite romantic love. And I think I imagine that Carrie would be okay with that. Um, but anyway, so skipping quite a ways ahead, we get to uh, the situation with Phantom Liberty. We save the president because we're a bad dude, bad non-binary dude. Um, we end up trying to rescue Songbird and get her to the moon, but once she confesses, I want to get into the mindset here. One, like, if Songbird had told us the truth from the beginning, this particular version of Whims-V, let's just call them Whims-V because not to be confused with Whims-V, the first. This is Whims-V the second, also referred to initially as Hims-V. Um, um, now known as Whims-V one half, but I'm not going to say that whole thing. Um, we're probably just gonna call them V. This version of V, um, basically would have helped Songbird had she just explained the situation, and this deception had not been a part of it. Um, but because the deception had been a part of that, and we became like so, um, you know, our hopes were up that we would also find a way to save ourselves. And I think for us, like having that potential guarantee of having our life saved on top of saving her life um was worth all of the risk. Like we can change our name, we can change our identity. Like we've done it before in a matter of speaking. um so like we'll figure it out, and we'll have saved someone else's life in the process. um but when we were confronted with the truth that only she would be saved, it was devastating, and having to rescue her, potentially have to face Reed and potentially kill him. This man that we've come to trust and consider an ally, I guess. Um, you know, we might have to kill them to, I don't think we say you dicked me first. To be clear, it would be more like what the actual freaking written line was, which is Reed will take care of you, because that's just closer to the actual intent in what is freaking written on the screen. Um, that like this is the way that we can all potentially live, and I won't have to be in fear and spending whatever the hell is left of my life looking over my back constantly, worried that FI agents are going to be trying to kill me. So, like, it would be worth it if we could both live, have a pretty solid chance at living. But if it's only you, then, and with the potentiality of having to kill Reed along the right way, that's just too much. Um, I don't think I really explained all of that in its entirety during the stream, so here I am doing it. Um, so it wasn't like the desperate bid to live and to have a guaranteed shot at living. It wasn't entirely selfish, although it may have been at least like one third selfish. Um, and definitely there's one third selfish, one third pragmatic, one third um just kind of wanting the best for everyone concerned. As far as we know, Songbird lives. We're really hoping, and if we ever actually get to talk to the president, we just be like, you know, I know you don't owe Songbird any favors, but please just keep her away from the cloak and dagger. Like, have her do things that are keep her away from the freaking black wall, for that matter. Um, that would probably be should be a no brainer. Like, you already had to fix her up once. Um, but like just assign her to like peacekeeping or espionage that's going to help keep the peace. You know, that are aimed at keeping the peace, or you know, stuff like that. We'd also like to make sure that like there's no actual hard feelings between us either, and maybe like if we can just have just like thank her for telling us the truth, and also that we're sorry. Um, anyway, so all of that finally to the ending. The ending has a lot of changes from what happens, and it was because partly because I spoiled myself of what the ending entailed, and I'm like, okay, I don't like this. Um, it it's not what my V would do. So more importantly, it's like I don't like the way it's set up. It's because a lot of how it's set up is not based on things that my V would do. So the solution is to have my V do what they do, and with a reasonable degree of foresight. Um, Based on again their core stats, it makes a degree of sense that like we would know, and this is where we're going to get into whole into heavy spoilers for the tower ending. So if you for some reason watched this far knowing there are spoilers, maybe you're just gonna continue watching because you don't care. But if you do care about spoilers for some reason and you just thought, oh, I'll wait until I give a heavy spoiler warning. Here's the heavy spoiler warning. Um, Basically, we end up we think we're only going to be gone for a month. We text everyone we know and love, telling them we're going to be gone for a month, and then we end up being in a coma for 2 years. And basically, everyone that cares about us, aside from Carrie, um, it ends up breaking up with us. So it's and heck, in this case, it's literally everyone. Like, there's no selecting which character is the canon romance. They all break up with us, aside from Carrie. So even if we like, uh, I think even River kind of breaks up with us. I'm not going to go into spoilers for that. Although I think I did during my stream anyway, but like it's not applicable. We don't even meet him in this playthrough. We just never get around to it, and I didn't want. I'm in time constraints. Um, I'm just gonna quick look up something. Actually, let me pause and look. I need to look up a detail that I have forgotten. Okay, I just had looked up a particular detail. Um, for to talk about the ending. So basically, considering like we're not told like straight like we're told that like we're able to use a tech um that Songbird was planning to use on herself to cure ourselves. And they're getting the best doctors and best people to try and fix us up and apply that technology. And but we don't know a whole lot initially. Like we had to like wait a few days to meet Reed, and then from there we had to wait a couple days to get the uh, the shuttle to take us to Langley and Langley, Virginia, and from there get into the surgery. So this is actually kind of good because we literally don't know. We don't even have an estimate. So we're like, okay, we could be out for weeks. We could be out for months potentially. Um, like this is freaking brain surgery, effectively. So we need to cover our bases. So we go to Pan Am and we go to Judy and we're like, hey, we're gonna be having this basically brain surgery, and we want to make sure that you have visitation rights. And so I know this is sudden, but will you marry us? Um, and and we maybe explain some of we probably like hash out some of what we do, the, the contracts involved, and I also like I did do a little bit of research about how polygamous marriage works in the NUSA. It doesn't seem like there's any actual canon about it, so it's just kind of like up to the GM. And since I am effectively the GM of this playthrough, um, I decide I will make it legal. In the words of a Lord of the Sith. Uh, totally not evil. Um, but anyway, they both after a little bit of time, uh, like we we say like I'll give you maybe half a day. Like things might be moving fast. Things, uh, you know, you can always decide. You can always change your mind very quickly with little repercussions if you decide when I'm out of it to that you don't want to do it anymore. But uh yeah. But it's very important to us that you have the ability to come see us. At any point, even if it is just for a month. Uh, yeah, we want you to be able to be apprised. And they agree after some a degree of time. And the actual it's all in contractual language, but the gist of it is that it's and there may be some details between the contract with Pan Am and the contract with Judy that are a little different, but the gist of it is basically they are free to well, one thing I don't think I talked about a whole lot is that they are free to date and see whoever they want at any point. particularly if we are in a coma, like they don't need our consent to see other people during that time. Um, the only thing they need consent, explicit consent from us, even if we are in a coma, is to actually marry someone else. And even then, there's a clause that basically says if I'm in a coma for over a year, then the consent clause is null and void. Um, and obviously, if we die, the whole thing is, and then it just goes to our will and testament to decide who gets what. Uh, from our estate, as it in whatever state our estate is in uh, at the time of our death. But anyway, so that's a bit. So now going into details that are kind of new. Okay, so there's still a fair amount of details that are new. So after a couple days, we get to visit Reed, and it plays out the way it plays out on stream. Maybe it's part 23. If you really just want to see it, that the ending itself, and the way I role play my way through it. Well, I'm hoping I'm doing a pretty good summary here, but like if you want to actually see it play out, watch part 23 of Whims-V 1/2. Um, so okay. So when we speak to Reed, there are a few addendums to that conversation. For one, we tell Reed that what our cover story should be, basically, for Myers, unless he's already come up with something. The idea would be that we had a hunch, as it were, that that Reed's plan just wouldn't work. And spoilers, it doesn't. Um, it fails spectacularly, but like, we do have high technical knowledge, fairly high intelligence, um, even at that point. So like we're like, and we're also like we know that Songbird had activated her relic connection, and that just made us a little worried. That she would like not only see it coming, but potentially be even more capable of detecting it with the relic connection. Like that is a variable that we may not have fully accounted for. So, um, and we'd also be very candid with Reed and say like part of this is bullshit, part of this is true, like the best lies are. Um, but like we just made a call in that moment to just be like, okay, we're just gonna get Songbird out of here and deal with whatever the consequences may be. Um, and the reason why we need, the reason technically why we didn't notify Reed of our plan, which is, which according to us, according to the lie, as it or half the true lie, the whatever you want to call it, uh, we basically didn't contact Reed to tell him apprise of him of our air quotes plan, um, because we weren't sure how much Songbird might be able to monitor us, might be monitoring my communication. So um, it's just unfortunate that that things had to go down the way they did, and that a lot of civilian lives had to be sacrificed in the process. Um, like we hadn't really planned for that. Um, but anyway, um, we figured that like Reed would find us anyway, regardless, and he did. And that we would, that it was basically our plan all along to hand Songbird over to him at the end. And she was already in a weakened state from everything, so there was a lot less risk involved in the handover than there would have been if we tried to knock her out the way we'd planned. So yeah, like that's and we also tell Reed like feel free to make any alterations to try and make it more plausible. Just let me know so that like if they need to debrief me, I know what to say. Um, I think Reed kind of respects that like we sincerely wanted to help Songbird, and it's just that the fact that she'd been manipulating us the whole time kind of just changed everything, and we were just hoping against hope that it wasn't too late to actually save her in other ways. And apparently it wasn't. Like I'm just gonna say in my head that it wasn't, and that Myers isn't just lying to us about what happened to Songbird. Um, but anyway, here's some. So basically, like another couple days later, all the paperwork and stuff is worked out. We are legally married to without really ceremony. That's going to come later. Um, we are legally married to both Judy and Pan Am. We also make sure that Carrie's okay with all of us, um, and he's fine. You know, we're gonna make sure that Judy and Pan Am both have his deets, so that if he, you know, and he has their deets, so that they can conversate and apprise each other of the situation. I think that you know, as much as Carrie loves us, as much as we love him, he's not really in a state where he would want to get married again anyway. So yeah. Uh. Anyway. Uh. So we go off to Langley, and we end up in a coma for 2 years. Now, what I didn't really go into is okay. Well, more about Reed. Let's just backtrack a little bit again. We did like warn him that. Well, okay, we made sure in that conversation also um to apprise him of the marriage situation and say, okay, like I'm recently married to two lovely women, and I expect them to have full accommodations, a flight out to wherever the hell I'm going, because I don't think we've been told yet. Um, and you know, a hotel, ideally with two beds, if not two separate rooms. Um, you know, to stay for the duration of whatever it is, within reason. Um, ideally, just however long they're willing to stay. Um, maybe some consideration for how long the NUSA is willing to keep them. Um, in case it does take longer than a few months. Um, oh, that's just my mom texting me. Never mind that. Um, but you know, just accommodate most of what they want within reason. And they should have full visitation rights. You know, they don't have to be exposed to any. You know, you could take whatever steps to keep them away from sensitive areas. You know, they could be escorted through whatever we are. But you know, just keep in mind that the Native American one is with black hair is Pan Am, and she is a firecracker, and she'll as long as you don't give her any trouble, she will not be a security risk. But anyway, so that all said, Reed makes sure that the arrangements are made because he's a bro. Um, so basically, while we're out, Judy and Panam get on a flight to Langley. They stay in an apartment. They are able to visit us semi regularly. They're able to get to know each other a bit. Also, Judy, we did make arrangements to get Judy out of Night City to begin with, um, and with the nomads. Um, so anyway, yeah, it gives them a chance to get to know each other in an interesting situation. Um, and not in that way, you perverts. Uh, like Panem is okay with us being non-binary and transforming, um, but and she might be open to experimenting a bit with us, but I think that she personally isn't like she's strictly a one-on-one person. I would say so, and she probably just has very little interest in Judy in that way. Especially considering that I would say she's largely heterosexual in this particular continuity. Um, but they get on. But Judy and Panam obviously get on well. Because I personally feel they would. On top of it being a problem if they didn't. Um, but anyway, they stay in Langley for a while, visiting us off and on, just taking in the sights of the general area, um, getting again getting to know each other and hang out. But after probably a month or two, they're like, well, one, the NUSA is kind of like, we don't know how much longer we can afford to keep you here, to yeah, and they're like, yeah, like we have no idea how long this is gonna take. Like it's already very evident that it's gonna take much longer than it would already, and than it was estimated to take. So you know, we'll keep you apprised. You could if you want to come back for a day or two, we'll accommodate that as per the agreement. But yeah, like it would be great if you could Delta for a while. Um, so they get back with the nomads, and they end up in Pittsburgh. Uh, and if you know the original, if you experience the tower ending for yourself, you might know where this is going. Um, so sometime during maybe shortly after their arrival in Pittsburgh, Judy meets a very nice lady named Bianca, and they get to know each other, and they eventually start dating. With Judy being very clear that like she is married, but it's open and their spouse is currently indisposed in a coma. But yeah, I'm not sure if she tell them about the marriage clause necessarily until uh it become until the relationship starts actually getting serious. Um, and heck, I imagine that by the time the relationship gets that serious, that the year would had to have expired. Um, anyway, so like it's not like the moment it expires, Judy's like, oh, now you can marry me, please marry me. Like I think it's a little bit after that that they decide to tie the knot. So that part of the tower ending is still there. Aside from the V, please don't ruin this for me, because why would she even think that? Like why? um, in fact, I'm not even gonna say like, oh, she wants a divorce on top of everything else. I mean, she'd be able to ask for one, but I don't know why she would. Especially given how considerate V has been this entire time about this entire process, and that she was even warned that this could take a lot longer than a month. And it has also made accommodations to account for Judy's happiness. Make sure she's out of Night City, that she has a family looking after her. Um, yeah, has some autonomy to pursue relationships. Um, if she wishes to. So yeah, like V's been great. She's gonna be cool with us. Um, Pan Am, I think she's in a similar state. Like she's a little peeved just at the situation. She doesn't really have much reason to be angry with us. I mean, she has a little bit just because like we didn't turn to the avocados for help directly with it, but like we still asked them to like get Judy. We still it's just V wasn't that sure how the avocados could help exactly. Like there's, I guess, I don't know. And even breaking into Mikoshi wasn't a guaranteed success. Path to success. So yeah, um, and V would have explained as much. Um, it's not that we don't trust the avocados; we just don't trust Arasaka to have the solution that we need. Um, so anyway, um, so after V comes out of it, cyberware is still inoperable, or combat cyberware particularly. So any gender affirming stuff, I'm just gonna establish. I just established and continue to establish that all works. Um, uh, Judy and Pan Am were called because like it's clear in the conversation with Reeves that they knew with a couple days margin of error when we were going to come out. So they would have contacted Pan Am and Judy as per their instructions and made sure they were flight out, had accommodations, and were able to visit and be there when we came out of it. And they're also able to like make calls and such. Um, and again, let me reiterate that like even if you're this is an ending you could apply to your own playthrough if you're female V romancing Judy. All you have to do is just make sure that you have done all of the avocado stuff, and yeah, so that because this could still work if even if Pan Am is just a friend. Um, so yes. Anyway, uh, so they're probably there along with Reed. Um, heck, they might do some of the explaining themselves along with Reed, or Reed might. I'm not sure quite uh, what the Reed might be just explaining to everyone technically in a moment that like none of our combat cyberware will work without killing us. Um, anything that can work passively or is not really stretching our body beyond its um limits in terms of reflexes, particularly. I do imagine that Kaiden armor would still technically work. Um, because it's literally just it's literally just our skin is hardened, um, and reinforced. Um, I'm not sure if we necessarily bothered in that with that when we could just like wear Kevlar or something, but anyway, because like I don't know, like it just might be weird in love making situations when your skin doesn't feel as soft as it should be. Anyway, um, there might also be compatibility issues with the shape shifting, uh, which might be just some gameplay story segregation for us. Now that I think about it. Um, anyway, um, all of that works. So that's fine. Um, Reed still offers a job. We still decline. Uh, we basically asked them to uh, allow us to go to Night City. We're not planning on actually staying there. We just want to visit Victor, shoot the shit, get a second opinion on what's going on with our cyberware. Um, Panam goes with us. Um, uh, Judy decides she just wants to go back to Pittsburgh. Um, or at the very least, like just stay on the plane. Yeah, I think she stay on the plane because like the plane would be set to take us to Pittsburgh. Um, After we're done in Night City. Um, so we go with Panam. We get Judy on Hollow again. I think she just doesn't want to go into Night City proper. Um, Everything plays out relatively the same. Victor is still in Zeta, owned by Zeta Tech now. Misty's still gone. Um, well, sort of. Um, uh, but like Panam is with us partly as a bodyguard, but also partly because we want to introduce her to Victor. Judy is on Hollow, so we can also introduce her to Victor, just less directly. Um, Victor congratulates him. We give him at least an informal invitation to a future wedding ceremony. Um, we also let Carrie know the good news, obviously, even though he's now on the Crystal Palace. So yeah, it'll be a while before he can get to us, but he will, and he'll be involved in the ceremony, even if he isn't going to be like one of the brides. He'll be a bridesmaid. No, he's the best man. If not even, I'm just gonna say best man. In the previous one, he was the officiant, but yeah. Anyway, um, so have a conversation with Victor. We leave, and then we get nearly assaulted, but Panam steps in and is to protect us. And then, like as we're going away, we bump into Misty, and that happens roughly the same way. Um, except with Panam in the conversation. Um, I'm not sure. I imagine we've at least told her about Judy. Um, I'm gonna say we at least told her about Judy, if not actually introduced her to Judy in lore previously. It probably would have been a lot easier to introduce her to Judy than it would be to Pan Am, since Judy is actually in town. Like, we may have actually just gone on a date to hang out with, to to go see Misty shop. Um, but anyway, um, that plays out roughly the same. Again, Pan Am is in the mix. Um, we leave Night City with everyone and go uh, to Pittsburgh. We meet Bianca, hit it off very well. It's practically love at first sight. It's more. It doesn't ever end up in a actual like freeway marriage, but there may be freeways involved. Um, and actually, I think Bianca would probably be the maid of honor in this case. Um, I think it'd be funny if she was actually the one to walk Judy down the aisle. That might actually be the suggestion on the part of V. But anyway, Sunday in the Ball kind of. I think Carrie also ends up hooking us up with a nice place, um, because of course he does. A nice big place to raise a family. There's still 3 children, like in the other ending. 2 boys and a girl in this case. We're still gonna go our previous roles. Jackie, Johnny, and Sylvia. Um, Bianca just, basically we try to, again, we try to set it up so that we're all pregnant around the same time. Um, and we have help from the Aldecados, um, dealing with all of the heck, and probably some servants, to be honest. Um, we probably had nannies galore, like 1 or 2 nannies, just to to deal with all the babies. Um, but Bianca decides not to be part of it just because not all of them are interested in bearing children. Again, our I should reiterate that our I don't think for just in case some crazy people come in here having not watched my streams, um, you know, this V is biological female, non-binary. Uh, they have um implants that allow them to produce sperm, um, but they still have like their ovaries intact and uterus intact as well. So basically, they could either get pregnant or get someone else pregnant. Um, whether or not they could do both at the same time without having to like wait for one to, um, without having to go through a transitional period between. Um, Particularly with their their current disability. Uh, I don't know, but like they worked it out so that they would be like, it's not necessarily they need to give birth at the same time. Just all being able to relate to the nonsense that is pregnancy. At least I've heard, being not being a biological female. This will be fun, they said. Anyway, I mean, before that, there's the wedding. Let's backtrack again. Like, I have so many different ideas. Um, uh, I did mention this in the other ending, but it's even more plausible now that we don't even have the NUSA to deal with. Um, that we get like at least a mini music festival with Wizzy Wizzy, Us Cracks, and Carrie Uridine, possibly a samurai reunion. I think one detail I didn't get into is that we would step in to be a new bass player, considering that Denny is kind of a jackass, like a literal jackass. He just, I believe he's the bassist. If I'm mistaken, you can correct me. Um, Also, I personally just like bass is my favorite instrument. I don't know how to play it. I'd love to learn it sometime, maybe. Um, but at this point, I'll be lucky if I figure out how to play piano, like actually have a keyboard. So I kind of know, like I know how to play chords, and that's about it. Um, so I don't know how to read sheet music, so that there, whatever. It is what it is. Um, and we just find the best guitarist that we can find stand-in for Johnny. Um, and everyone's like, he might actually have to explain just the craziness that was going on uh, that led us to be capable of standing in for Johnny. I mean, we know how to play guitar, or V knows how to play guitar. It's just that the bass is just slightly easier and also more just up their alley in general. They just like the sound of it and the feel of playing it. Um, and playing guitar kind of makes them feel a little sad after what happened to Johnny. So it just doesn't feel right to play in the position of the person that they kind of allowed to die a second time. Um, Even if he was cool with it. Um, another little detail about that he called us by our what in this continuity is effectively our dead name. I can't remember what the actual name is. It's not Victor. Oh, Vincent. He calls us Vincent, and I understand the intent of it because, like, in the actual dialogue in the game, um, when we the only other time that our proper air quotes name is brought up, um, uh, it's the only people who know me real well use my call me Vincent, and we kind of in that moment I had canned the idea like that Vincent is effectively like it is our legal name because basically the idea that it was that V was just our transition name. It's something like just a letter is a very good gender neutral name. Um, the thing is that Arasaka would not accept a one letter name as a employee name. Um, so they went with Vincent instead. Um, as a variation of their birth name Valerie. Um, but Vincent is especially since they were fired from Arasaka, Vincent has become even more so a dead name to them. So even though it is technically their legal name, um, So it kind of plays off very differently when Johnny at the end calls us Vincent. It's like it's like if that was actually what happened in lore. Like in lore, he calls us V. Um, like in canon, as it were. In my personal canon, he just calls us V. It's not anything different. But yeah, but like if that were what happened, it's like okay, like that's how you like. She's like if that were actually what happened in lore, I had to like add add V saying, "Really, Johnny? That's how you're gonna send us off by dead naming us? Really?" And he just laugh and laugh, and then the AV crashes, and we all die. But anyway, they live relatively happily ever after. Um, there's some struggles, obviously with disability, but we have Pan Am effectively as our bodyguard. We may take up some work as a fixer. Um, we probably would. I imagine we're probably just going to deal with a lot of logistics work for the. I think it's going to be the main thing we're going to be doing. We're going to do logistics work for the avocados. Like we're going to be the person who makes the plans. Um, so yeah, and that's about it. Like we spent like an hour, almost an hour and 10 minutes, like just over an hour and 7 minutes talking about this ending. Um, hopefully you sat for this whole thing. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you have, and I thank you very much. Um, I needed to get this off my head. I like there's just something about the tower ending because when I first watched the tower ending, I actually lost sleep because I just couldn't take like I am so invested in my character. I am so invested. And I love I just love Judy the bits as a character, and I just I immerse myself. This is role playing. This is just yeah. So like just thinking about trying to think about how I would change this ending was just flipping through my head. Um, and how much I disliked it, and I've kind of gotten over it a little bit. Like it's actually a pretty good ending. Like at the end of the day, like when I see the full thing, because I only saw it like up to the point where like Judy dumped us. And then I think the video actually ended at that point for some reason, and I'm kind of glad because I actually kind of liked and enjoyed the rest of it. You know, even though it's very bittersweet. Um, it just didn't piss me off nearly as badly as what happened. And I mean, it's not like that it's out of character for Judy or Pan to react the way they did, given the way that things go down and how much of a dumbass V is by default for not thinking like, hey, maybe we should plan it, and put contingencies in place in case this takes longer than they think it will, or in case this actually is going to just take a very long time. We need to make sure our partners are able to keep track of us and be apprised of what's going on. Um, yeah, like no shit. Why doesn't V do that? Because they're just an inconsiderate prick who betrayed Songbird. Um, As for the other ending, that is slightly more canonical than this, I already described the gist of it. There's not a whole lot more to say. A lot of it plays out the same, like they still have the family. Just Bianca isn't part of the equation. Maybe Judy meets a Bianca later on and decides to bring her into the fold. Um, in the other thing, I don't know. Um, I don't see any reason for her to do that because like she already has V, and she didn't necessarily marry Bianca because V wasn't enough for her. She married Bianca because V wasn't there and she was lonely, and it was allowed. And Bianca's awesome. I'm assuming like anyone that Judy falls for is probably an awesome person. Um, but I would hope, unless her taste in women has not really changed a whole lot. Um, but she seems happy, so I'm gonna assume that Bianca is in fact awesome. Although one final note, I think if we were to do this with the original Whims-V in particular, who is well trans femme, um, if for whatever reason she were to have end up with a similar mindset to this V, um, and decide to just hand Songbird over to read, um, and for whatever reason was also just stupid enough not to make any plans. Like that's something I'm not sure I budge on, but let's just as another what if while we're in the what if mood. Um, like she was just confident that they would give a very good estimate in how long it would take. It would just be a month. It'll be done before anyone knows it. Um, and then 2 years later, we're Rip Van Winkle's in the future. When Judy tells us, like again, we're panamorous. Oh god, that was a bad joke for my previous playthrough, and I apologize. Actually, no, I don't apologize. It's great. We're polyamorous. Um, if we in this hypothetical scenario, we wouldn't have married her because we wouldn't have had the foresight. Um, um, if Judy were to even say, "Please don't ruin this for me," we'd be like, "Why would you think that?" Like we still just let us be part of your life. That's all we ask. And if it comes back into romance and Bianca's cool with it, then great. If it doesn't, then that's fine too. If it doesn't or she doesn't, that's fine too. We just want you by our side in whatever capacity you're comfortable with. And we may need to crash at your place for a while. Um, Although I still think Carrie would even if we hadn't romanced him, he'd still be a bro and hook us up with some place to live near, ideally nearby Judy. Um, we'd eventually meet someone else if like again if Bianca's more the monogamous type. Um, we still try to at least make things right with Pan Am because in that it was also polyamorous, except and with Mons. In that case, uh, Pan Am is at least bi curious. We're adjusting her orientation in that playthrough a little bit. Um, but yeah, like we would try to. make it up to her. Like we'd be like, okay, like we don't want to pick up where we, pick up where we ended. I just want to make sure that you are aware of how sorry we are. And we pretty much like, I think we probably sent her like just not even a text message, maybe a proper email message if she has an email. Um, just this is something I've given some thought to as well, even though like it's nowhere near my canon. For any of this, it's just the way my mind works. I am just perpetually with these kind of endings where things are not quite entirely um happy or as happy as I'd like them to be. Um, I'm just tapped into the multiverse with my head, and I'm just like, what can we do differently? How could things end up differently? Um, uh, and it last night it kept me up. It like my eyes were closed. I was trying to sleep, but my brain was just still cycling through all of the ideas of how this could be differently. I eventually fell asleep, but then I had to get up to use the bathroom, and then when I tried to go back to sleep, my brain went back into that mode, and I just lay there half awake um, until my alarm went off, and eventually I just didn't snooze as much as I wanted to. Um, hopefully, that's part of the reason why I'm making this video. I just want to get all of these ideas off my chest and have a record of it, have it uploaded on my channel, and hopefully I will be able to sleep uh, in starting the Fallout 3 playthrough will hopefully help with that too. There will be less revising needed to that ending. There's a few things I might need to adjust for how things go down, but um, yeah, I'm gonna be a little more okay with it, especially since that's none of endings affect relationships with romantic interests. So, um, but yeah, like I think we would tell her something to the effect of like, this isn't fair for either of us. Like you had to suffer through 2 years of just not knowing what happened to us, and probably at some point assuming we were dead and having to grieve for that with a layer of uncertainty beneath it. It's not fair to me because I went through all of it. It only took me the blink of an eye, and all passed by in the blink of an eye, and now I'm faced with all of this shit all at once, and I have to deal with that. And I'm not even going to start to claim that that makes us even, because it doesn't. But I just hope you can take some time to process the fact that I'm here, that I'm alive, and that I want you to consider forgiving me. We can start over. We can just drop all, any prospect of ever seeing each other again. But I just want to know. I just want you to know how sorry I am, and I would like you to. I'd really like you to give me some chance to make it up to you in any way that I can. And if you feel the best way to make it up to you is just to leave you completely alone, then fine. I just want to hear it from you directly, not through some intermediary. I I just like to hear your voice one last time. Like even if it's angry, even if it's yeah, I might be kind of crying a little bit here. Like I think Whimsy or Whimsy really did love both of them equally to some extent, and even if she still has or she, I guess in this case, it would be the other Whimsy. It would be Whimsy one. Um, like, even if she still has Judy as a friend, it uh at the very least that's gonna help tremendously. But just not having Pan Am 2 is would still hurt her a lot. And I do in my heart in a way hope that Pan Am would at least give him some time to process, forgive us. I don't know if she'll ever. Things will probably never be the same, but I hope she at least would end up in some capacity as a friend. Um, if even the long, if only a long distance one. Um, but yeah, like I think that he'd want to, you know, I guess it would be just a matter of like you may have already moved on, but I need your help to help me move on. And sorry, my head's. I'm drinking water, and I think my head just goes that way. Fortunately, I figured out how to at least a temporary solution for the whole my head being down. Just had to elevate my webcam a little bit. I just need to find something that's a little more that I can uh, put there without having to. Because right now I have a stack of Switch games that my webcam is propped on, and like, okay, if I need to use one of the Switch games, it's gonna be a it could be an issue. So I need to find something roughly the same size that like I'm just not gonna use for anything else for a while. But anyway, I think that's it. I think it covers all my bases. That covers everything I wanted to discuss. Hopefully, there's nothing else. Nothing else will my brain will be at ease. My weird autistic brain will be will be satisfied with this almost 1.5 hour dump of ideas. Um, I hope you enjoyed this kind of off the cuff, just going through all of my ideas and iterations of the endings. It doesn't even cover quite everything. Um, I guess the last thing is that I think it's the sun ending. Um, I actually one last thing, hopefully, um, in the sun ending, I want to revise where the sun ending takes place. That's the ending where we in our case we cheated. You know, I have no shame in that. It was a little it went a little faster, um, and I just wanted to see the ending where Rogue doesn't die. It's not really worth it to do it for me to do it without cheats because I have to do the entire run over and over again until I finally somehow, by some miracle, succeed. Um, I already went over it during the stream. Um, why I didn't like it. Um, the way it's executed. I'm not going to go over it again. But anyway, in that ending, we are not in our penthouse in Night City with Judy. We're in a nomad camp just outside of Night City. And heck, the only reason why we're in that area is because um, I've gotten this new offer of a job that will potentially help me find a way to cure this whole dying thing. So we're in the nomad camp with both Panam and Judy. We've already had conversations with them about like what will happen if we do die, and in preparations for that eventuality. But it is like this one last job, and then we are like, regardless of what happens, we are done with Night City altogether. Like, if this job kills me, it kills me. If I succeed and the whatever solution was offered doesn't pan out, I'll just have to deal with it. But we'll deal with that too. And but regardless, this is gonna be the last thing we try and do. And it succeeds and everything succeeds, and then from there. I'm not sure about the idea of either Panam or Judy being pregnant at that point. Um, it's possible that one of them was okay with the idea of bearing um, bearing children with V, just so that they have something to some part of V with them, uh, regardless. Um, I'm not sure which one it would be. I could roll a dice. I'm not going to. It's not part of the tier one canon endings anyway. Like, the only part I consider to be canon is the actual trip to the Crystal Palace. Um, anyway, let's stop here. Let's actually try to wrap things up before we even get to the um, hour and a half mark. We're rapidly approaching it. So anyway, okay, and this is interesting. So is the scale of this particular window just whatever we're setting it to? Let me check a. Okay, well, it's still smaller than the Fallout 4 one. That's weird. Okay. Anyway, we're just testing things in real time while we're um also I need to move this. I might change the um outro thing a little bit. Again, we're doing a lot of things in real time here that we probably shouldn't, but no, we don't want to send her. Oh, whatever. We're probably gonna be changing this even further anyway, but okay. So anyway, there's a bunch of things you can do. Take a few seconds every time as well as some other things that are a bit more involved. But of course, all of that is completely up to you. And regardless, I thank you very much for watching. And until next time, sayonara.